Hello, good morning students. So today we are going to see the next part of the chapter, that is ozone depletion in the stratosphere. So you have seen in the last class regarding the greenhouse effect and global warming. So how this greenhouse effect is caused and what are the effects of this greenhouse and how greenhouse gas is going to lead to global warming. Okay, in today's class we are going to see about the ozone, how this ozone is formed, where it is present, and how ozone depletion occurs in the stratosphere. Okay, so this ozone you have heard earlier in your earlier classes also, and you might have also studied this in your chemistry textbook of PUC second year, first year. Okay, there you might have heard regarding the bad ozone and what are the impacts of this bad ozone. Here in biology class, we are going to study in brief regarding the ozone and its effect, or where exactly this ozone is formed. So this, usually you know that Earth is surrounded by the atmosphere. Okay, and then this atmosphere has got lower atmosphere, higher atmosphere, etc., etc. So then usually they say that ozone, that is O3 layer, is going to form a protective layer around the Earth atmosphere. Means this ozone will protect our Earth from harmful infrared radiations from the sun. This is all what we have heard in general. So here this ozone, some say that this ozone are of two different types, that is bad ozone and good ozone. Usually this bad ozone is formed in the lower atmosphere, that is stratosphere. Sorry, not stratosphere, it is troposphere. This bad ozone, which is formed in the lower atmosphere, they say that it is going to harm the plants as well as animals. Whereas there is another kind of ozone, that is good ozone, which is found in the upper part of the atmosphere, and that upper part of the atmosphere is the stratosphere. So totally, in the diagram also you might have seen in the slide, the left side, the diagram is going to show you that is upper atmosphere, that is going to consist of good ozone, whereas the lower part of the atmosphere, which is nothing but the troposphere, will have bad ozone. So here we are concerned with the good ozone, which is found in the stratosphere, and this good ozone is usually going to act like a shield or a protective cover around the Earth surface, because it is going to absorb ultraviolet radiations from the sun. Okay, so this ultraviolet radiations which are coming from the sun are very much dangerous to the living organisms. Okay, because they are of higher wavelength and they have got capacity to cause mutations. So these ultraviolet radiations which are coming from the sun are responsible for causing mutation, and it is only the ozone layer in the air which is going to protect our Earth surface from these ultra-red radiations which are reaching the Earth surface. So these ultra-red radiations, what exactly do they do then? So these ultraviolet radiations, they are of high energy, you can say. Okay, they have got capacity to cause a mutation in organism, it may be plants or animals, and these are highly injurious to living organisms, since the DNA and the protein which is present in our body, they have got capacity to absorb this ultraviolet radiations, and these, when our DNA and protein absorb these ultraviolet radiations, they break the high energy chemical bonds within these molecules. So this is in short what are the impacts of ultraviolet radiation on human beings, or impact of ultraviolet radiations from the sun when they reach the earth's surface or the near the human beings. There is another term that is Dobson unit. They may ask you for one more question, what is Dobson unit, or how is the ozone layer measured? That is the thickness of ozone, that is O3, in the column of air from the ground to the top of the atmosphere is usually measured in terms of Dobson unit, that is D unit. That is thickness of the ozone, column of ozone, can be measured by a term known as Dobson unit. Okay, this you remember. Then, so you may ask me the question, that is how this ozone gas is formed, or where exactly it is present. So as I already told, that is ozone gas is present in the atmosphere, and this ozone gas is continuously formed by the action of ultraviolet radiation on molecular oxygen. Molecular oxygen is already present in the atmosphere, and then when this ultraviolet radiation comes in contact with the ultraviolet, that is molecular oxygen, ozone gas is continuously formed. So always you can say that in the atmosphere or in the stratosphere, that is your ultraviolet radiation act on molecular oxygen, that is O2, and produce ozone, and your UV rays also cause degradation of ozone to O2. So there is conversion which is taking place always. In the stratosphere, that is upper atmosphere, UV rays cause the formation of ozone, as well as UV rays are also responsible for the degradation of ozone to molecular oxygen. So in total you can say in the atmosphere there is a balanced process which is occurring, and there is equally according to the need, there is a formation of ozone as well as a degradation of ozone. Okay, but sometimes what happens, this balance which is maintained is disrupted. Okay, so there should always be a balance between the production and degradation of ozone in the stratosphere, no doubt, but sometimes balance has been disrupted. Okay, imbalance is caused. It is because of the degradation of ozone. Instead of forming more and more ozone, there is depletion of ozone, and this degradation of ozone is by CFCs. That is, CFCs is nothing but chlorofluorocarbons. Then you may ask me, where does this chlorofluorocarbon comes from? So these CFCs, usually these are chlorofluorocarbons which have got wide use as refrigerants. Okay, so usually these CFCs we use in refrigerators, coolants, air coolers, etc. And these CFCs will be released. These are discharged in the lower part of the atmosphere, and from there they move upward and they reach the stratosphere. And in the stratosphere, this UV, you know very well, in the stratosphere there are ultraviolet radiations which are coming from the sun. These UV rays act on these CFCs, and thereby there is release of chlorine atoms. And these chlorine atoms, in the presence, that is these chlorine atoms, what they will do is they degrade ozone. This chlorine which is released from your CFCs will degrade ozone, and hence there is the byproduct is your molecular oxygen. Okay, so you can say here the chlorine atoms are going to act like a catalyst, because they are not consumed in the reaction, but still they are responsible for breaking of ozone molecule into molecular oxygen. So what is there? That is, there is a balance. There is a balance between the ozone formation and the ozone degradation. But sometimes, due to the release of CFC gases by the man-made activities, these CFC gases which are liberated in the lower atmosphere, they reach the upper atmosphere. Okay, then these CFCs, what they will do is, when they come in contact with ultraviolet radiations, what happens? They will release chlorine. Okay, and this chlorine atom is going to act like a catalyst. Okay, in the diagram also, in the slide they have shown you the chlorine Cl. When it come in contact with ozone, it will give rise to chlorine monoxide, plus there is oxygen, O2 molecular oxygen is released. Or again, chlorine monoxide plus oxygen atom will give you again chlorine plus oxygen. So in this way, that is, your CFCs will damage the ozone layer indirectly by the release of chlorine atoms. Okay, so usually the main reason for the depletion of ozone is your release of CFCs, chlorofluorocarbon atoms, and hence you can see that as there was more and more release by CFCs were released in the into environment by industries, that has led to the more and more depletion of ozone layer, and there was ozone hole also, which was seen over the Arctic region. Okay, so nowadays you might have heard in the month of May, June, that is due to lockdown. Okay, there was no much pollution, no release of gases, no pollutants. So you can see that is the ozone hole was recovering. In some newspaper it had come. It is because of the recovery of the ozone layer. So here ozone depletion was there, especially in the stratosphere region or the Antarctica region, but here this ozone hole has now been recovered. But still, what we need to do is, we need to reduce the use of these CFCs gases. Okay, and this ozone, which is going to act like a protective shield around our atmosphere, it is going to protect our Earth's surface from number of bad effects or number of impacts. Okay, so you know that ultraviolet radiations of wavelength shorter than ultraviolet B, there are different types, that is UVA, UVB. Okay, so there are different types of ultraviolet radiations. So ultraviolet radiation B type are usually absorbed by our surface, and usually this ultraviolet B, UVB type of radiations, they are mainly responsible for damaging our DNA, as well as they will lead to mutation. Okay, so usually the ultraviolet radiations which have got lower wavelength are absorbed by our surface. Okay, and this ultraviolet radiation, when it comes in contact with the human body, it will cause aging of the skin, damage to the skin cells, as well as it will lead to skin cancers. Okay, so these are all the common effects of ultraviolet radiations. Okay, then the next is regarding the few more effects of ultraviolet radiations, or what happens if there is no protective ozone layer around us. So here you can say that ultraviolet radiations of shorter wavelength are, as they are absorbed by the Earth's surface, they are responsible for causing mutations. Then, as I already told you, it will lead to different types of skin cancers. Then if you have high dose, if you get exposed to high dose of this ultraviolet radiation, it may damage your eye. Okay, that is, it is going to cause inflammation of the cornea, that is eye. It is a part of eye, and that will lead to a disease known as snow blindness. That is not slow blindness, it is a snow blindness. Okay, and it may also lead to cataract, etc. And if it is not controlled, the continued exposure of this ultraviolet radiation may permanently damage the cornea. So these are all the ill effects of ozone depletion. So ozone depletion has got many more impacts on the human beings. So then, if there are so many impacts of ozone depletion, so what best can be done for this? So recognizing the bad effects of ozone depletion, an international organization known as Montreal Protocol in Canada in the year 1987, a protocol was designed to control the emission of ozone depleting substances, that is ozone depleting substances like the CFCs, different types of harmful gases. Okay, so the protocol was done, and then according to this protocol was developed for both developed as well as developing countries in order to reduce the emission of CFCs and other ozone depleting gases or the chemicals. So these protocols have laid down definite roadmaps for both developed as well as developing countries to reduce the use of CFCs. And according to the protocol, if they are going to do it, they are going to definitely reduce the depletion of ozone layer. Okay, so this Montreal Protocol in the year 1987. This also they may ask you, when was the Montreal Protocol brought into action, or it was signed? It was signed in the year 1987. Then next part of this chapter is regarding the degradation by improper resource utilization and maintenance. So as you all know very well, that is always the human beings have been degrading the nature as well as the natural resources. Okay, he has been using the resources, but along with that he has also been degrading the natural resources. Okay, and thereby posing or thereby leading to many of the problems. So here the degradation of natural resources can be caused not only by the pollutants, but the degradation of natural resources can be caused by improper utilization of these natural resources also. Not only wasting, but also not properly utilizing the resources may also lead to the degradation of natural resources. Then there are certain impacts of degradation of natural resources. The first one is soil erosion and desertification. So here usually you all know that fertile soil is very much necessary for the human beings to grow the food crops or for the development. And for the development of this fertile topsoil, it takes years together or centuries together. But nowadays, due to human activities like overcultivation, deforestation, grazing, poor irrigation practices, it has all led to the removal of top layer of soil. Okay, mainly due to human activities, that is overcultivation, unrestricted grazing, deforestation, poor irrigation, and these have all led to the dry patches of land. And as you all know, when the dry patch of land go on extending over the period of time, that will lead to the formation of deserts. So therefore, internationally what they say is desertification is a major problem nowadays, because every one of us now want to get urbanized. Okay, so increased urbanization has led to desertification. It is one of the bad effects of improper use of natural resources. So here in the pictures you can see that is how earlier the land was before, that is green in color, and due to increased greed of man or due to soil erosion, over cultivation, the land has become barren. And the same is the fate with the Amazon forest, which were once called as the lungs of the planet. Due to destruction, due to overgrazing, due to over cultivation, they have become desertified. Then second, another bad impacts of this improper resource utilization is water logging and soil salinity. So usually you know that irrigation is the best for the land, but irrigation without proper drainage of water is going to lead to water logging in the soil. The water stays in the soil, and thereby when there is more water to the crops, that will lead to water logging. And water logging, what it will do is it is going to draw all the salts to the surface, and when the salts are deposited on the surface, or when the salts start collecting at the roots of the plant, this will increase the salt content. Okay, and that is going to have extremely damaging effect on agriculture. So what we should do is we go for irrigation, but irrigation should be done in a proper way. Irrigation without proper drainage of water will lead to water logging, and thereby all the salt which is present in the soil will be deposited on the land surface, or it will be collected at the plant root, and that will damage the agriculture. So water logging has to be avoided. Soil salinity should be controlled. Okay, so these are the two bad impacts of improper utilization of natural resources. Then coming to the next part of this chapter is deforestation. So what do you mean by deforestation? In the picture you are seeing, that is the lungs. The trees are grown in the form of lungs. A part of the area on the right side you are seeing, a part of this is the trees are cut. That is nothing but the deforestation. So deforestation is nothing but it is the conversion of forested area. Earlier it had forest, but now it has been converted into non-forested one. Okay, it is due to the mainly due to the greed of the man. What we are doing is we are converting the forested area into non-forested area, and like this almost 40% of the forest has been lost in the tropical region, as compared to only 1% in the temperate region. So 40% of the forest has been cut in the tropics as compared to 1% in the temperate region. So here you can say that at the beginning of the 20th century, forest covered 30% of the land in India. Okay, 20th century, 30% of the area was under the cover of the forest, but now at the end of the century, it has come to 19.4%. Okay, according to your National Forest Policy 1988, it says that it had recommended that the 33% of forest cover for the plains and 67% should be for the hills, according to National Forest Policy of India. Okay, 33% forest cover should be for the plains and 67% for the hills. But nowadays we only have 19.4% of the forest cover. It is about 30% of the beginning of the 20th century. Means you can just, by seeing the number, you can just imagine how deforestation has occurred. So this in the picture they have shown how the forest has been cut and the number of plant sources of the trunk of the trees are kept aside, wood are kept aside for the human needs. So this, you may ask me a question then, how does deforestation occur then? So this number of human activities are responsible for the conversion of forest land into barren land or the agricultural land. The main purpose is for agriculture. So conversion of forest to agricultural land is the main reason for the deforestation. Okay, right. And then along with this, human beings go for deforestation in search of timber, firewood, cattle, ranching, etc. Okay, so trees, usually you cut trees nowadays for timber. Firewood, you want costly furnitures. Okay, you want many more things for your luxury life. So you go on cutting the trees, and that has led to deforestation. Okay, one such thing is, that is main reason for deforestation is slash and burn agriculture, which is commonly called as jhum cultivation, especially in the north and eastern states of India. Okay, they have largely contributed to the deforestation. Okay, in slash and burn agriculture, what do they do is, the farmers cut down the trees of the forest and burn the plant remains. Okay, they cut the forest. Okay, and then they put the fire. Okay, and the ash, whatever you get, is used as fertilizer, and the land, whatever is left barren after burning, is used for farming or cattle grazing. After cultivation, once they take out the crops, after cultivation the area is left for thousands of years together. Then after the cultivation is done, area is left for several years for its recovery. The land is left for several years so as to allow its recoveries. Then again the farmers then move on to other land and repeat like this. So by this way, that is by slash and burn agriculture, many of the land areas in the northeastern parts of the country have been lost. So here, in earlier days, enough time gap was given for recovery, but nowadays due to overpopulation and repeated cultivation, it has decreased the recovery phase, resulting to deforestation. So what is the thing is that, due to the greed of the human beings, they are slashing the land, they are burning the land, they are not allowing the land to recover, and that has mainly led to deforestation. Okay, then what are the consequences of deforestation then? If you go on deforesting everywhere, cutting the trees everywhere, there will be definitely harmful effects. One of the major effects is enhanced carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere, because when trees are there, trees absorb lots of carbon dioxide in their biomass and thereby reduce our carbon dioxide concentration. So atmospheric carbon dioxide is increased and trees could hold a lot of carbon in their biomass are lost. If trees would be there, there would be no problem of carbon dioxide. And when you go on cutting the trees, there will be loss of biodiversity also due to habitat destruction. Then along with this, there is a disturbance in hydrological cycles like your carbon cycle, water cycle, etc. Then due to deforestation, there is also soil erosion, and in extreme cases that will lead to desertification. So these are all the consequences of cutting the forest or deforestation. So what is the solution for this? Then the solution for this is, the best solution is reforestation. So reforestation is nothing but, it is a process of restoring forest that once existed in the past. So usually reforestation may occur naturally in that particular area, or you can reforest by planting the trees. Okay, so you can carry out reforestation by growing more and more trees in the area where already existed plants were existing. So that is the best solution. That is, here before you can see in the picture, before how the land was there, and after how the land got converted due to reforestation. So then in your textbook they have given you one case study of people participation in conservation of forest. That is, you can see, that is Bishnoi. You might have heard about the Bishnoi movement. So Bishnoi movement you might have heard. Earlier people were interested in the conservation of forest. That is, in the year 1971, that is, the king of Jodhpur in Rajasthan asked one of his ministers to arrange wood for constructing a new palace. So for that purpose the ministers and workers went to the forest, okay, near a village which were inhabited by Bishnois, okay, to cut down the trees. This Bishnoi community, it was famous for its peaceful coexistence with nature. Okay, this Bishnoi community did not allow the ministers to cut down the trees. So one of the Bishnoi women, Amrita Devi, showed exemplary courage by hugging a tree and daring the king's men, or she said that, I will hug the tree, and if you want to cut the tree you can cut it along with me. Or she said to the king's men that first they have to cut her before cutting the tree. The tree mattered much more to her than her own life. So unfortunately what happened, the king's ministers who had come did not listen to her, and what did they do is they cut the tree along with the Amrita Devi. That time what happened is her 3 daughters and hundreds of other Bishnois followed her and thus lost their life in order to save the trees. This shows that how dedicated they were towards saving the nature. But nowadays you are not going to see such type of commitment, okay, of that extent, okay, in order to save the nature. And so hence the government of India has now instituted Amrita Devi Bishnoi Wildlife Protection Award for individuals or communities from rural areas for extraordinary courage and dedication in protecting wildlife. In the memory of this Amrita Devi, who is coming from the Bishnoi community, now Government of India has developed an award, that is Amrita Devi Bishnoi Wildlife Protection Award, for those who do extraordinary work, or those who show extraordinary courage for protecting the wildlife. Then another such innovation for conservation of forest you might have heard regarding the Chipko movement of Garhwal Himalayas. Okay, Chipko movement, very famous in 1974. So there what happened is the local women who were present in the Himalayan region showed enormous bravery in protecting the trees from the acts of contractors by hugging the trees, and this was an inspiration for people all over the world. Okay, right. So realizing the significance of this, what happened is the Government of India in 1988 has introduced the concept of joint forest management so as to work closely with the local communities for protecting and managing the forest. In turn, these people who are protecting and managing the forest, they get the services, they get benefit of various forest products like fruits, gum, rubber, medicine, etc. And thus the forest can be conserved in sustainable manner. So like this, that is joint forest management was brought into action, in which both the communities as well as the forest was protected. So these are all the few innovative conservative methods for protecting our forest. So thank you for watching, and this completes the chapter.